Representative Campbell, Representative Connolly,
Here.
Representative Harshman,
Excused.
Representative Jarvis,
Here.
Representative Provenza,
Here.
Representative Storer,
Excused.
Representative Thayer,
Present.
Representative Worf,
Here.
Chairman Byron.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Appreciate that. With that, today we will hear rules of House TRW or be nice or leave. And we are going to hear House Bill 147. And with that, we have the Chairman of Revenue to present it. Come on up, Representative Locke. And welcome to the best committee in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You were ready for me to jump in?
Please proceed.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So let me give just a little tiny bit of background on this bill. For those of you who don't recall, we actually had done this amendment in a couple of the bills that we passed out of the House last year. If you recall, you may not recall, but House Bill 169, for example, was kind of a similar to Senate File 69. Well, as these bills kind of went back and forth between the House, this amendment, what we did on 169 was we put an amendment in there. The intent was never to have a 25% or a 50% or whatever went through. The intent was never to have it conflict with the People's Initiative. And so we had a sunset attached to a couple of those bills. What I kind of noticed in the interim, and it's on me as Revenue Chairman, we did not get that into any of the bills, and I realize that. So that's really all this bill is. And so let me walk you through it quickly. Is all it really does is it just repeals what was implemented with Senate File 69, so the 25% exemption. It repeals that if the People's Initiative is passed and once implemented. It simply repeals that 25. So, for example, and they're not exactly apples to apples in terms of percentages, so I won't try to confuse that too much. But for example, the People's Initiative would implement a 50% against the residential structure, and the intent was never to have that and then stack on the 25%. So really, that's all this bill was designed to do. Now, this repealer is just designed to repeal if that is implemented. So that's the goal. It was really meant to do nothing else other than to make sure we didn't go and stack exemptions we did not intend to stack. And let me apologize to the chairman and the committee. My name is Tony Locke. I'm House District 35 representative, and I didn't even introduce myself, and I'm sorry. So I apologize for that
Thank you, Representative Locke, for that explanation.
misstep.
No problem. We are a forgiving committee. Committee, any questions of Representative Locke? Representative Provenza.
Thank you. Representative Locke, can you walk me through if this is just the change that you say, why the fiscal note? Explain the fiscal note to me.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
Locke, go ahead.
And thank you, Representative Provenza. So the fiscal note, so theoretically, this would have stacked these kinds of costs onto our bill. So this is actually removal of those costs is what it was an attempt to do, to show, because again, conceptually, if the People's Initiative went through, it would be that 50% on all of the structures. And then this is actually a decrease in the cost that this would not stack on top of it. And that was the goal. We didn't want to turn a 50% into a 75% exemption. That was not the goal. So that's what the fiscal note is, to try to show that, hey, the expense of this would go away theoretically. If that helps, if I was not clear, please.
Vice Chair Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll add a little more context. You guys have the fiscal note in front of you. So if you go to the second paragraph and you go down to about the last sentence, and it's a long sentence, but it says the overall result of property tax revenue addition from the repeal of the 25% homeowners tax exemption and the property tax revenue reduction from the 50% initiative on property tax is an overall reduction in residential property taxes paid. This reduction is estimated to be 43 million for 28 and 43.9 in 29. So this fiscal note shows you what will happen if this goes into effect. The 25 goes away, but the 50 comes on. So it's going to be another 43 million in property tax reduction if the 50% passes. That's what this is telling you. And so school foundation, then 30 million. And, yeah, that's the way I read that. It takes both those numbers into account, the 50% and the 25% repeal.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hirschman. Committee, any other questions of Representative Locke? Chairman Locke, excuse me. Go ahead, Representative Connolly.
Yeah, so could you explain where it talks about, and maybe you just did and it went over my head, but in that paragraph on the fiscal note where it talks about the school foundation program will experience an estimated revenue decrease, is that with this bill or with, can you just talk to me about that?
Chairman Locke, please.
Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry, can you say that a little louder? I'm sorry, Representative Connolly, my fault. I couldn't hear you very well. I apologize. Which
Okay.
paragraph?
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Representative.
kind of short, so my feet don't touch the floor, so I have to like do this.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll just read it so that everybody can, so it says the school foundation program will experience an estimated revenue decrease from the 43 mil supporting K-12 public education, which include the statewide 12 mil levy and the school district 25 mil levy and the countywide 6 mil levy. For the purpose of this analysis, the decrease in property revenue to the school foundation program is shown as an absolute revenue decrease in lieu of estimating the school district recapture revenue decrease and school district entitlement expenditure increase separately. I need some explanation.
Thank you, Representative Connolly. Chairman Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not sure I can explain that paragraph exactly, but I think the previous chairman over there, I think he explained it pretty well. I think he's right that the way this was written, the intent of this bill was to make sure we didn't stack up increases. But the way this is written, if the People's Initiative were implemented, this is talking about additional increases in costs that would be implemented. So I probably did not explain that very well, and thank you. But that's what the intent of the bill, theoretically, this number would have been higher, for example, with the cost of the implementation of the People's Initiative. And if Senate File 69, maybe I shouldn't say it that way, I'm sorry, the previous 25% exemption, if they were stacked, this number would be significantly higher. And so what they've done is, the way they wrote this, and thank you for the better clarification of that. But this number is still, for example, an example of what the additional would be. I'm not sure why we quite wrote this way, but theoretically, it's probably good for you to see if the People's Initiative gets put in place, this is an additional cost that gets implemented.
Thank you, Chairman Locke. And I believe when we get to it, we may have agency here that contributed to this fiscal note. So they certainly may be able to clear it up. Vice Chair Harshman, you have anything? I saw your hand up. Okay, committee, any other questions of Chairman Locke before we ask him to not go very far? And I have one, Chairman Locke. I noticed a few sponsors on this bill, and thanks for the explanation coming out of revenue this last year. Did you talk to any senators about this bill, or do you have anyone on the Senate side to support this? I don't see any Senate sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did not get a Senate sponsor. It was one of those, I put this in a little late, and so, everybody was scrambling so that was based on that. So I will be scrambling for Senate sponsor or Senate help on the floor. So
Appreciate that. Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, don't go far if you don't mind. We're going to go to agency in the room before we go to public comment. Any
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
agency can come potentially talk on the fiscal note for the clarity of House TRW, which normally doesn't hear revenue bills. But we hear a lot of bills that aren't in our purview this year. So with that, please introduce yourself for the committee and welcome to House TRW.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ken Gill. I'm with the Department of Revenue. I'm the administrator of the Property Tax Division. And Representative Harshman's right on the spot here. What we were trying to do, and probably the impact of this bill is basically it repeals something should something pass the vote, right? But we wanted to show what taking this bill, the current level, which exempted over 1.4 billion in assessed dollars last year, which equates to using the statewide average mill levy to about 101 million statewide. So what we were trying to do is show, okay, as one goes away and this one comes on, this is the effect that it will have. So really, the People's Initiative, should it pass the voters, not quite 50% difference from the previous year of the 25%. So, and that we call that the homeowner's exemption is what we call that. So,
Perfect. Thank you for that clarity. Committee, any other questions of the department? Any other questions? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why not just bring this next year if the initiative passes?
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I just do the fiscal notes and the numbers. So, you know, that really is up to the sponsor and this body, obviously, to bring a bill or not bring a bill. I just respond to the numbers.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Committee, any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, President Campbell, please.
Thank you. Chairman, just for my own understanding, if I understand this bill is a repeal of one in case another one goes through. From the Department of Revenue, if the People's Initiative does go through, that's a kind of across the board 50% reduction. Do you know, or could you just enlighten me on which accounts, which funds would be impacted by that?
Mr.
Please.
Chairman, great question. Yeah, all funds at every county level. So the school foundation 12, the school 25, the school 6, your county 12, your municipality 8, your special fire districts 3, your weed and pest 1, and another 1. Yeah, every taxing authority would be impacted as long as there's residential property within their boundaries.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Committee, any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, Representative or Vice Chair Hirschman.
Mr. Chairman, since we've got a lot of time and no more bills, just to ask a question about that 50% initiative. I mean, we know how we're learning how the 25%, it affects counties differently, obviously, because some counties are mineral rich, some rely on residential property and land. And have you guys done an analysis on the 50%? Is it going to be a similar impact? I mean, to the non-mineral counties going to kind of feel it worse, or is it different when it's not the land involved, I guess, on that? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, yes. Vice Chairman, we have done a breakdown of that, and I'd be happy to share that with you and with the whole committee if you'd like to see it. But yeah, we have done a breakdown working with LSO on that. So and it's done very well. We kind of use current law in place, so it's not really dealing with the bill in front of you now. But yeah, we have done a breakdown, and I'd be happy to send it to the whole committee.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Hirschman. I think that'd be appropriate. I'm sure Libby could help us out with that. So appreciate that. Committee, any other questions? With that, don't go far. We may have more for you. Appreciate that clarity. With that, we're going to open this up for public comment. Public comment, please come fill the chairs. We do not have anyone on Zoom, so it's those in the room. Public comment on House Bill 147. Welcome to House TRW. Please introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, Nick Agopian, representing the Wyoming County Commissioners Association today. We're here in support of the bill. Last week, our members were in town, had their legislative hearing, voted to support this bill. For those of you that don't recall, it takes a 2/3 vote of all of the county commissioners across the state for a support position. And that's where we are. That's why I'm here today, is to share that with the committee and would stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopian. Representative Campbell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. And I'm not sure this is a fair question of you. I mean, to have to ask, right, to speculate where our counties sit on this. A concern, I think that maybe, that by passing this piece of legislation through adds perhaps a false narrative that we support the People's Initiative. And that in support of that initiative, we are willing to repeal this one, which for me personally is not a narrative that I want to create. So I guess my question to the commissioners, I mean, all of our county commissioners, is, yeah, their view on the People's Initiative. And if we had to pick between the two, right, we'd rather that not go through and this one stay in place, or yeah, how that might shake out.
Mr. Gopian.
Mr. Chair, Representative Campbell, that is a very fair question, but I don't believe today is the day to offer that answer for the commissioners. The bill is what's before us today, and it certainly helps the blow that the People's Initiative would bring. The commissioners, along with other stakeholders, I believe, are having conversations now about what the impacts of that bill looks like. And I think reserving that for where we stand at the end of this legislative session makes a lot more sense than speculating on what that position would be. Certainly, if you'd like, I can follow up with you and see if we can find some more detail, but I'm not prepared to answer that today.
Thank you, Mr. Gopian. Committee, any other questions of Mr. Gopian? Representative Wharf, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And could you tell me, out of all the counties, what was the percentage that was in favor of this or opposed to it? Whichever, I'm assuming they were in favor of it.
Mr. Gopian.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Worth, that is not something that the commissioners track. It's an up or down. Do they cross the threshold or not?
Which is a 2/3.
So it'd be 2/3. So it'd be-
threshold.
I thought
But-
forgive me, Mr. Chair, I thought you had heard me say the 2/3.
Yeah.
I'm not certain at what percentage greater than 2/3 it
Yeah,
is.
that was my point. I mean, and I don't know, just, when we vote, it's recorded vote. And so
Mhm.
exactly how many people are for or against. That's all I was wondering, is if it was overwhelming or if it was just barely across the finish line, or.
Again, Mr. Chair, that's not a number that we record beyond the threshold of it.
Appreciate that, Mr. Gopian. Committee, any other questions, Mr. Gopian? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you. If you're here to testify on the bill, come fill the black chairs. We have a long day ahead, so I would like to get this committee, if they so choose, depending on this questioning, some time to maybe do a few laps around the Capitol, get some steps in, huh, Coach? So with that, please introduce yourself.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
welcome to House TRW. We used to see a lot of each other in revenue, and Harsh was the good chairman. Please.
We did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dixie Huxtable, Converse County Assessor. And it has been a while since I've been before this committee, but it's always a pleasure and I appreciate, let me have a few moments. I really wasn't going to speak until the last question came up, but I did want to speak on behalf of the county assessors who are supportive of this bill for a specific reason, that if this bill is in place, and then should the People's Initiative pass, we know immediately that the homeowner's exemption is gone. If this bill is not in place and the People's Initiative should pass, we would still be obligated to be processing the 25% homeowner's exemption in our offices until next session when you get a bill through. So for us, it's very important that this go through to help us with our processes. So thank you.
Thank you,
Stand
Ms.
for any questions.
Huxtable. Committee, any questions of Ms. Huxtable? Any questions? Committee, Representative Wharf.
I was just curious, because you guys have an association. Do you guys record any votes? You guys, or how do you handle, how does the association handle issues that come before you? Is it similar to what the county commissioners do, where you have to have a certain threshold before you guys are in favor of something or before you oppose something?
Ms. Huxtable, please.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Wharf, we do have an association and we do take up the bills. We typically meet about the middle of January, so a lot of times there's not a lot of bills still filed out there. But we do take a vote It's recorded in our minutes. It's not necessarily recorded on any other document. But typically, when we testify as an association, we are testifying as to the ability to administer or not administer a bill and what the consequences could be. We very rarely would take a position on a policy decision. Now, certainly assessors may come forward on their own and do that as an individual, but the association itself is testifying into the administerability of a bill. And so, we do take a vote, and it is a majority vote typically is what we go by. And it's not recorded anywhere but in our minutes, but we do take a vote.
Thank you, Representative Worf. Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Any other public comment on House Bill 147? Any other public comment? None online. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on House Bill 147. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Worf, seconded by Representative Thayer. Committee, do you want to work the bill at all? You have any amendments? Page 1. Page 1, any amendments? Page 2, any amendments? Any amendments? Page 2. That's the end of the bill. There's no page 3. With that, this will be a roll call vote on House Bill 147. Sorry, let me allow for some discussion before the roll call vote. Sorry, I'm getting excited about my steps, Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The People's Initiative hasn't passed, and it might not. And it's not effective immediately. We have until 2027. So I'm going to be voting no, because I think that we can clean this up, and I don't want this in our statute books if it doesn't pass. So I'm a no, and I want to explain my vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Provenza. Committee, any other comments before we go to vote? Representative Jarvis?
Can we just put in this bill that we repeal the other one?
You can bring any amendment you would like, Representative Jarvis. Committee, any other comments before we go to roll call vote? Seeing none, now we will go to roll call vote for House Bill 147.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for House Bill 147. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman. Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Nope.
Representative Storer left an absentee vote of no. Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Worf.
Aye.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 2 noes.
Appreciate that, committee. Before we adjourn, just reminder, we are open for interim topics. I have a rough schedule for the dates of that. I owe it to Representative Worf. He asked for it last week, but we have a rough schedule of the dates that are working out with all of our other committees' work, as well as the election. So let's start thinking about interim topics, and we will have some opportunity towards the end of session to finalize those. With that, we are adjourned. We'll see everyone Thursday.